There's something about a Scorpio that unnerves people. They could walk into a room full of laughter and light, yet still feel the invisible weight of something off, something unspoken. And here's the unsettling part: they're usually right. Before a word is spoken, before a smile is offered, Scorpio already knows. Some call it paranoia, others call it coldness. But what if it's neither? What if, in a world obsessed with appearances, Scorpio is simply immune to masks, not because they trained for it, but because they were born with it, born with a kind of internal radar, the soul's sonar, that hums quietly in their chest whenever a lie approaches. It doesn't matter how charming you are, how polished your words, how generous your gestures. If you carry an energy that's inconsistent, manipulative, hollow, or fake, Scorpio will feel it, and they will step back, not loudly, not dramatically, but instinctively, like a warrior who's smelled danger before it enters the battlefield. You see, Scorpio doesn't distrust people because they're broken. They distrust people because they've seen what broken people can do. They've sat across from friends who betrayed them, lovers who lied while making eye contact, family members who smiled while burying the knife. So now they don't need to wait for the betrayal. They feel it ahead of time. This video isn't just about who Scorpio doesn't trust. It's about why. About the deeply rooted intuition that Scorpio has earned through emotional warfare. It's about the subtle signals they pick up, the shifts in tone, the glance that lasts too long, the compliment that's a little too sweet, the apology that's too rehearsed. And it's about something else too, a truth that even Scorpio rarely says out loud. There are people I can love, but I still won't trust them. Yes, Scorpio can love you with every ounce of their soul and still feel that something is off, because to them, love is not blind and trust is not automatic. So if you've ever wondered why a Scorpio gave you that unreadable look, why they seemed to withdraw even when everything seemed fine, why they treat you kindly but never open their gates fully, you might be one of the 7, one of the types of people that Scorpio instinctively distrusts, not out of judgment, not out of superiority, but out of survival. Because for Scorpio, trust isn't a gift, it's earned in fire. Let's begin. Reason, the too friendly, too fast type. You've met them, maybe you even liked them at first. The kind of person who showers you with praise the moment they meet you. They call you bestie after 2 conversations. They want to know everything about you fast. They overshare their entire life story before you've finished your coffee. And something in you goes, wait, what's the rush? Scorpio doesn't trust that energy, not even for a second, because Scorpio understands something most signs overlook. True connection takes time. Time to observe, time to feel, time to peel back the layers carefully with presence and respect. But when someone skips all that and speeds into emotional intimacy like they're running a race, Scorpio's soul goes on red alert. Let me tell you a story. There was a Scorpio woman named Morgan. She worked at a wellness company in California, calm, professional, intuitive. One day, a new co-worker named Alyssa joined the team. Alyssa was magnetic. Within a week, she'd made friends with almost everyone in the office. She gave out gifts, brought cupcakes, remembered everyone's birthday. She even told Morgan, "I can already tell you, and I are going to be super close." But Morgan, she smiled and said nothing, because something about Alyssa felt off, too rehearsed, too polished, like someone trying to win a crowd, not build a connection. Over the next few weeks, the truth emerged. Alyssa had been gathering gossip behind the scenes, aligning herself with the right people to advance quickly and manipulating stories to keep others divided. She wasn't connecting. She was collecting data, weaknesses, social leverage. And Morgan, she had felt it all in the first 5 minutes. That's the Scorpio radar. They don't need evidence. They don't need a reason. They just know. Because when someone comes on too strong too soon, Scorpio doesn't feel flattered, they feel cornered, like something is being hidden behind all that affection. Because real love, real loyalty doesn't scream, it whispers over time. Scorpio knows that people who force closeness too quickly are often trying to bypass being truly seen, and that's dangerous, because it means they're not trying to build something honest or whole. They're trying to control the narrative. See, Scorpio isn't afraid of intensity, but they are allergic to artificial closeness. They don't trust people who haven't earned their space. Because Scorpio values depth over speed, truth over noise, real energy over charm. So when someone floods them with praise, affection, access, and vulnerability all at once, Scorpio doesn't step closer. They step back, and they watch, silently. Because behind the too friendly facade, there's often a hidden motive, and Scorpio has been betrayed by that kind of energy one too many times. So, if you ever feel a Scorpio growing distant, even though you've done nothing wrong, ask yourself, did I try to get too close? Too quickly? Because Scorpio doesn't fall for fast, they fall for real. And in their world, trust that comes instantly can vanish just as fast. Life lesson. True connection is not about urgency, it's about presence. Scorpio teaches us that depth cannot be rushed and trust cannot be forced. If you want to build something lasting with someone who sees through everything, take your time. Reason 2. The one who talks too much, but says nothing. There's a sound that Scorpio despises more than silence. It's the sound of words that mean nothing. They don't mind a long story as long as it leads somewhere. They don't mind a heated debate as long as there's substance. They don't even mind small talk when it's authentic. But when someone talks and talks and talks without ever actually revealing anything real, Scorpio's instincts fire up like sirens in the soul. Because Scorpio listens differently than most people, they don't just hear what you're saying, they listen to what you're not saying. They listen to the gaps, the dodge, the deflection, the vague platitudes that seem designed to impress, distract, or avoid. It's the guy at the party who monologues about all his connections, but never says what he really wants. It's the friend who overshares 100 stories, but dodges when you ask how they're really doing. It's the coworker who floods every meeting with words, but never gives a straight answer. To most, this just seems like personality. To Scorpio, it's camouflage, and they know how dangerous that can be. Let me show you how. A Scorpio man named Eli once joined a non-profit board, idealistic, passionate, driven by purpose. There was a charming older gentleman named Ron who dominated every conversation. Ron had stories, Ron had charisma, Ron had opinions. Everyone listened to him, laughed at his jokes, admired his presence. But Eli, he watched. He noticed that Ron never really answered questions, never committed, always shifted the topic back to himself. And when it came time for real decisions, Ron disappeared. He had nothing to offer when it mattered. Because his power wasn't real, it was borrowed through talk. Scorpio sees this clearly. They don't confuse words with truth. They know that sometimes a person who talks too much is trying to cover the absence of depth. It's not just annoying, it's threatening. Because to Scorpio, words are sacred. They should carry energy, meaning, and soul. So when someone weaponizes words to fill the air without presence, without truth, Scorpio grows cold. Not out of rudeness, but out of knowing this person isn't here to connect, they're here to perform. And performance to Scorpio is one of the most dangerous facades of all, because a person who refuses to be known cannot be trusted. Scorpio doesn't trust people who can't sit in silence, who can't answer a direct question without spiraling into a speech, who use conversation as a shield instead of a bridge. So if you've ever been talking and felt a Scorpio suddenly go quiet, their eyes scanning your face like X-rays, don't be surprised. It's not that they're bored, It's that they're searching for your truth and not finding it. Life lesson. Not every word builds trust. Some destroy it. Scorpio reminds us that authenticity is not about saying more, but about saying what matters. If you want to be trusted by someone who listens with their soul speak from yours. Reason 3, the one who can't look you in the eye. They speak, but their eyes are somewhere else. They joke, but their gaze slides past yours like oil on glass. They apologize, but their pupils shrink the moment you stare too long. To most, it's nothing, just a quirk, maybe even shyness, but to a Scorpio, it's a red flag burning in the dark. Because Scorpio doesn't just hear with their ears, they read with their eyes. And if you can't meet their gaze, they start asking questions, silent questions, dangerous questions. Why are you hiding? What truth are you afraid I'll see? What's in your eyes that your mouth can't say? You see, Scorpio isn't looking at your clothes, your status, your body language. They're looking at your eyes. Because that's where the real story lives. The eyes are where the soul stutters, the truth trembles, and the lies, no matter how well rehearsed, lose their grip. Let me tell you what happened to Andre, a Scorpio man I met in New Orleans. Andre was in a new relationship with a woman named Kate. On paper, she was perfect, smart, beautiful, confident, said all the right things, but every time he asked her about her past, her eyes would shift, left, down, blinking, smiling nervously. The words were there, but the gaze was gone. And Scorpio knows where the eyes flee, the truth hides. He didn't accuse her. He didn't pry. He just watched. Until one day, without a fight, he ended it. Weeks later, he learned that she had never told him about her recent breakup or that she was still in contact with her ex. He didn't need proof. Her eyes told him everything. Because when a Scorpio asks you something important and you can't meet their gaze, they take it personally. Not in the ego sense, but in the energetic sense. To Scorpio, eye contact is sacred. It's a contract of presence. It's two souls acknowledging each other without the fog of performance. So when someone avoids their gaze during truth, Scorpio doesn't just see discomfort, they see disconnection, and more dangerously, deception. They won't always call it out. They may even continue the conversation, but inside a door has already closed. And if that door shuts, it rarely opens again. Because once Scorpio feels like you're hiding your soul, they stop showing you theirs. So if you ever find a Scorpio staring at you longer than feels comfortable, don't panic. They're not trying to intimidate you. They're trying to find out, are you real or just pretending to be? Life lesson, your words may impress, but it's your eyes that reveal you. Scorpio teaches us that integrity isn't just spoken, it's seen. If you want to be trusted by someone who sees through souls, look them in the eye and don't blink. Reason 4, the one who changes faces. Depending on the room, Scorpio doesn't expect everyone to be the same all the time. They understand context. They know how masks work in the real world. We all adjust a little here and there. That's life. But what Scorpio cannot accept, what they instinctively distrust to their core, is the chameleon. The person who becomes a different version of themselves depending on who's watching. The one who laughs at one joke in one group and shames the same joke in another. Who's sweet in public but sharp behind closed doors. Who mirrors whoever they're with, not out of empathy, but out of strategy. To Scorpio, this kind of person feels dangerous. Why? Because if you can change your face that easily, what does your real face even look like? And more importantly, who are you when no one's around? Let me take you back to a story from my college years. There was a Scorpio girl named Celeste, quiet, brilliant, observant. She shared a dorm suite with 3 other girls. One of them, Natalie, was everyone's favorite. Natalie knew how to say the right thing to the right person. To the professors, she was the overachiever. To the party crowd, she was the rebel. To the roommates, she was the bestie. But Celeste, she watched. She noticed, and she saw something no one else did. Natalie never gave away her actual self. Every identity she put on was borrowed, a performance for effect. And when drama hit the group, when someone's personal secret was suddenly leaked, guess who had been there for every version of the story? Guess who remembered exactly what each girl said and to whom? Celeste didn't confront her. She simply withdrew, silently, instinctively. And when asked why she stopped trusting Natalie, she said only this: because I never met her. I met 7 versions of her, but not her. That's the thing about Scorpio. They don't need you to be perfect. They don't need you to be agreeable. They just need you to be consistent. They want to know that the person laughing with them at midnight isn't the same person mocking them to someone else by morning. Because Scorpio's loyalty is legendary, but so is their memory. They remember who switched sides, who said one thing and did another, who tried to be everything to everyone and in doing so became nothing real. And when Scorpio senses that someone wears too many masks, they start treating every one of them as a lie, even the one you wore just for them. Because to Scorpio, truth is sacred. An identity, however messy, must be anchored in something deeper than popularity. So when you shapeshift to survive social spaces, you may impress a crowd, but you'll lose a Scorpio. Silently, instantly, permanently. Life lesson: there's strength in adaptation, but danger in dishonesty. Scorpio reminds us that real trust comes not from being everything to everyone, but from being someone real to someone brave. Reason 5: the one who always needs the spotlight. To some, attention is just part of life. They thrive in it, chase it, need it. They fill the room, post every day, laugh a little too loudly, perform a little too hard. But to a Scorpio, that much light feels suspicious. You see, Scorpio doesn't fear brightness, but they question what it's hiding. Because in their world, the truest power doesn't scream. It whispers. It doesn't perform. It radiates. So when someone is always performing, when they constantly need applause, validation, eyes on them, Scorpio instinctively pulls away. Because what they see is not confidence, it's emptiness dressed as charisma. Let me take you into a moment that stayed with me. A Scorpio woman named Damani once shared a story from her early career. She had a boss, let's call him Trevor. Trevor was electric. Everyone adored him. He was loud, charming, full of jokes. But Imani noticed something strange. Every time someone else got praise, Trevor made a scene. He'd crack a bigger joke, make a louder compliment, tell a more impressive story. He needed to recenter the spotlight always, even if it meant subtly undermining others. At first, no one noticed, but Imani did. Because Scorpio doesn't just watch what you do, they watch what you do when the spotlight isn't on you. And what she saw was insecurity, camouflaged by extroversion, but deeply rooted in a need to be seen not for who he was, but for the illusion he maintained. That terrified her more than any direct threat, because a person who needs attention to survive will do anything to keep it, and that Scorpio knows includes betrayal. You see, Scorpio doesn't mind strength. They admire it, but they only trust the kind that's quietly earned, not loudly demanded. So when someone always has to be center stage, Scorpio wonders, what happens when they're not? Will they destroy others just to be seen again? Is their love real? Or just another performance? Scorpio trusts power that doesn't need an audience. They believe the most dangerous people are often the ones who hide behind charm. And they've learned, sometimes painfully, that a person who's addicted to attention can never truly see you. Because their eyes are always looking outward for approval, reaction, applause, never inward, never still. And Scorpio, they live in the stillness. They breathe in silence. And they trust only those who can sit in the dark without fear, without a stage. So if you find yourself needing to be on all the time, trying to impress, charm, outshine, Scorpio won't compete. They'll just disappear, because they know Where there's constant spotlight, there's usually a shadow no one talks about. Life lesson: true presence doesn't demand attention, it invites it. Scorpio reminds us that confidence isn't loud and that those who can sit in their own quiet power are the ones most worthy of trust. Reason 6. The one who avoids conflict at all costs. Some people will do anything to keep the peace. They smile through tension. They change the subject when truth gets uncomfortable. They say it's fine even when it's not. To the outside world, they seem gentle, easygoing. But to a Scorpio, they're dangerous. Because Scorpio doesn't fear conflict, they respect it. They believe in honest tension over fake harmony. To them, confrontation isn't chaos, it's clarity. So when someone constantly avoids it, backs down from every truth, pretends nothing's wrong, when the room is heavy with unspoken pain, Scorpio begins to pull away. Not because they dislike peace, but because they've learned where no conflict is allowed, truth goes to die. Let me show you what this looks like in the real world. A Scorpio named Dion was once in a serious relationship with a man named Marcus. Marcus was sweet, accommodating, and always avoided arguments. Whenever Dion brought up something real, a boundary, a discomfort, a need, Marcus would smile, nod, and say, "I don't want to fight. Let's just focus on the good." He never raised his voice, never challenged, never disagreed. At first, it felt refreshing, but over time, Dion began to feel invisible because nothing was ever resolved. Nothing was truly shared. Every emotion was coated in sugar. Every disagreement swept under a smiling rug. And that, to a Scorpio, feels like emotional betrayal. Not the loud kind. The quiet kind that suffocates intimacy without ever raising a hand. Scorpio doesn't want drama, but they demand truth, even when it's messy, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Because they know that anything real, any bond worth having has to be tested by fire, not ignored into oblivion. When someone can't look at pain, can't name the elephant in the room, can't say, "I'm upset," and here's why, Scorpio starts to mistrust everything. The smile, the softness, the silence. Because if you're always avoiding conflict, what else are you avoiding? And what happens when the truth finally explodes and you're too fragile to hold it? Scorpio would rather fight with someone who tells the truth than hug someone who hides everything under politeness. Because kindness without honesty isn't peace. It's emotional manipulation with a bow on top. So when someone smooths over every crack, Scorpio doesn't relax. They sharpen. They sense something artificial. And they know if this person can't meet me in truth, they can't meet me at all. Life lesson: real peace doesn't come from avoiding conflict. It comes from walking through it together. Scorpio reminds us that if a connection can't survive honesty, it was never safe to begin with. Reason 7. The one who shows no empathy for others' pain. Scorpio doesn't trust cruelty, but more than that, they don't trust emotional emptiness. That cold, unbothered demeanor people wear when others are suffering. The shrug at someone else's loss. The silence during someone's breaking point. The "that's not my problem" look in someone's eyes when a soul is bleeding. To Scorpio, that is the most terrifying kind of energy. Because Scorpio has been to the underworld, they know pain intimately. They've walked through betrayal, heartbreak, abandonment, and somehow still kept their heart beating. So when someone can witness suffering and feel nothing, Scorpio feels something very specific. This person is not safe. Let me tell you about a Scorpio named Alina. She was working in a hospital as a trauma nurse, a job filled with emotion, intensity, and constant human suffering. There was a new supervisor, Davis, clean-cut, efficient, unemotional. He handled everything by the book. But one night, a young boy coded in the ER. His mother collapsed to the floor, wailing, inconsolable. Staff gathered, hearts breaking. Even the doctor's voice trembled. But Davis? He barely flinched. He looked down at the clipboard and said, "Time of death, 3:42 a.m." and walked away. That moment stayed with Alina forever, not because she expected everyone to cry, but because she saw a soul that couldn't even pause to feel. And for a Scorpio, that's worse than rage, worse than lies, worse than betrayal, because at least those require a heart. This was hollow. You see, Scorpio doesn't need you to be perfect. They don't need you to be emotional all the time, but they need to know you have a heart that feels, that you wince when others hurt, that you pause when someone breaks, that you carry compassion even if it's silent. Because a person without empathy is capable of anything, and Scorpio knows it. This is why they mistrust people who laugh at others' failures, mock vulnerability, dismiss mental health, or minimize trauma. To Scorpio, that isn't just callous, it's a warning sign from the universe. Because if you don't care about anyone else's pain, you will never care about Scorpio's. Not when it matters. And Scorpio never forgets what it felt like to scream in silence and have no one reach back. So when they see someone who simply doesn't care, they don't judge, they withdraw permanently because they know that empathy isn't weakness. It's the one thing that separates human from predator. Life lesson: in a world that numbs and distracts, empathy is a revolutionary act. Scorpio teaches us that if someone can't feel the pain of others, they are not equipped to hold your truth. Protect your heart and don't hand it to someone who doesn't flinch when you bleed. Conclusion: Scorpio's silence is the loudest truth. So now you know. It's not that Scorpio hates people. It's not that they're cold or cruel. It's not even that they're overly suspicious. It's that their soul has learned often the hard way who deserves access and who does not. Because Scorpio doesn't trust based on smiles. They trust based on energy, on patterns, on that quiet, hair-raising feeling in their bones when something isn't right, even when everything looks perfect. They've been betrayed by charm, manipulated by kindness, lied to by those who feared conflict, abandoned by those who never showed empathy. So now they know better, and their instincts, they're not flaws, they're protection from chaos, from illusion, from spiritual contamination. Scorpio isn't looking for perfect people, they're looking for true ones. People who can sit in the dark without trying to escape it. People who mean what they say, who love with consistency, who don't fear depth, they live in it. Because for Scorpio, everything is energy, and some energies, no matter how pretty, carry poison underneath. So if you ever feel a Scorpio go quiet around you, if their warmth disappears, their eyes dim, their responses shorten, pay attention. It might not be what you said, but what you didn't say, what you avoided, what you disguised, what your energy revealed long before your words could hide it. And if you've ever felt a Scorpio's trust, if they've let you in, protect it. Because it's rare, it's sacred, and once broken, it never fully comes back. Life. Lesson: Scorpio doesn't just teach us how to protect ourselves, they teach us what authenticity feels like. They remind us that trust is not built through charm, silence, or performance, but through presence, truth, and emotional courage. If you've seen yourself in any of these 7 types, don't shame yourself. Heal. We all wear masks, but Scorpio reminds us that at some point we must take them off or lose what's real forever. If this video opened something in you, if you felt seen, called out, or called deeper, leave a comment below. Let us know which of the 7 types hit you the hardest and why. This is the path to Buddha wisdom, and here we don't run from the shadows. We walk through them toward truth, toward power, toward healing. Subscribe, stay with us, because the next Scorpio message might be the one your soul's been waiting for.